thank you. I appreciate this gentleman so much. He managed to pronounce my last name. It's apparently difficult. So yeah, hello everyone. I'm really excited to be here. Really enjoying the event so far. So many absolutely brilliant people with brilliant projects who all gathered here today to see Idris Elba. But I also appreciate you sticking around long enough to hear me talk as well. So I'm usually starting this talk with a story, and in this particular audience, I think I'm going to keep it very brief because it's a story that many of you know. It's a story of this whole industry that we're in that started, not too long ago, less than 15 years since Bitcoin first came along. And it's, it started as some extremely fringe technology that people would buy pizza with just for laughs. And now we're here, right? We are in the world of L1s and L2s and DeFi and a lot of people who depend on all of this to essentially bank and to handle finances. The part of this story that not a lot of people know is that DeFi is essential for a lot of people in a lot of countries. A couple years ago, I moved to Argentina, and Argentina has a 110% inflation rate. Argentina also has insane financial regulations that don't allow you to just exchange your money to US dollars and keep them in a bank account. So you are kind of stuck with a bunch of Argentine pesos that are highly inflationary. You cannot do much about them, and you only have a few realistic options. The first one, if you can afford it, you fly direct from Buenos Aires to Miami and you open a US bank account and you start banking there instead. Cool. But again, a bit of a luxury. The second option is you would typically have an arbolito, which is a guy on WhatsApp who can exchange your pesos for huge wads of cash, and you keep them in your apartment in a safe, and that's basically how you handle savings. The third option is DeFi. You can buy USDC. You can store them as savings in a cold storage, or you can get into any of the DeFi protocols. You can get a decently stable yield. You can actually bank. You can use any of the Argentine crypto card startups to get an actual debit card. Use your USDC, exchange it to pesos even, for a good non-government rate. And option 4, you can do nothing and continue getting fucked by your government, but that's not an option a lot of people find appealing. So let's skip that one. So this is the story, right? This is our industry that we're in, and for a lot of people here, like, this is a day job, and this is something that we do full time, and it didn't even exist 15 years ago. And it solves amazing problems for a huge part of the world population, right? I didn't even realize this problem existed a decade ago, but it does. And that's what Stellar does with humanitarian aid. That's what a lot of companies here do for other parts of the world. That's what a lot of companies try to do for Argentina as well. And this industry at its peak during the bull market was collectively valued at over $200 billion, which is a staggering amount, right? It's insane. It's insane how massive it is, how massive something that didn't remotely exist as an idea 15 years ago is now. But the obvious problem that many of you who tried to build something in this industry know is that this is not a single industry. This is not a single $200 billion industry, because this big circle around all of the ecosystem, it doesn't actually exist, right? It's not a single ecosystem. It's a bunch of very small disconnected islands. And you don't have this massive $200 billion industry in practice, because you have Ethereum, and then you have Polygon, and then you have L2s like Arbitrum or Optimism, but then you also have Solana that doesn't have any relationship with any of them natively. And so you try to build something, and you pick one of those islands according to some properties that you've selected, and you're kind of stuck with it, right? You build something on Ethereum, or you build something on BSC or Solana, and you have to use services that exist on Ethereum or BSC or Solana, and you have to interact with other dApps and protocols that exist on Ethereum or BSC or Solana. And you are limited by that very significantly. So picking the origin chain for your dApp, for your project, is a big challenge, because it doesn't just come with technical questions, right? What's the finality speed? What's the block time? What's the block size? What are the hardware requirements for running nodes? But it also comes with a set of business challenges. What's the ecosystem like? What projects already exist on this chain? What kind of usage will my app have? And those are like two sometimes diametrically opposed even sets of questions, because some chains can be very appealing to build on, but they don't have an ecosystem. Maybe they are late movers, maybe they don't have compatibility with EVM, maybe there is something else that makes a chain kind of relatively obscure, but technically absolutely exceptional. And that's the story for a lot of them, and it's a big problem. So we have this entire room next door dedicated to Soroban. And Soroban is absolutely exceptional from the technical perspective. I tried building on Soroban. It has a great UI, a great user experience, great testability. I actually enjoyed building on it much more than I enjoyed some other chains. I've been going through a few iterations of FutureNet, and now it's in testnet. Absolutely amazing. But the biggest problem that Soroban is going to face, or at least one of the big problems, is that it's just going to be potentially just another island in this whole disconnected ecosystem if we don't do anything about it. So it's going to be this exceptional chain backed by an exceptional company trying to do exceptional things, but most of the community is already elsewhere. And there are development funds and grants, and we can build oracles on Soroban, and we can build DeFi on Soroban, and we can build everything else. But then people would have to decide that they actually need to switch and do something on Soroban. And it will not be an easy decision for a lot of them, because they are already locked in. So this is essentially the problem we are solving at Axelar. What Axelar is a messaging protocol that connects many different chains with each other. And what we are trying to do is build one big ecosystem instead of those disconnected islands, right? And essentially with arbitrary messaging, what TCP/IP is for the internet, Axelar is for the Web3 ecosystem, for crypto, for blockchain. So Axelar enables interchanges like TCP/IP would enable internet. And we have been decently successful at connecting all those chains together. Every time I have to give this presentation, which has been a few times by now. I have to update this slide and change the number of supported chains, which is now 49. It was fewer than that when I was preparing a draft for this, and it's going to be higher than that probably a couple of weeks from now. So we keep in chains, we keep connecting all the different islands, all the different ecosystems with each other. And Axelar is a completely permissionless network. You can be an Axelar validator, you can participate in the network, you can participate in strengthening the Axelar security. You can relay Axelar messages. It takes nothing from you. It requires no permission from us. We developed this network, but the community actually runs it. So we built something that connects almost 50 chains at this point. And the Axelar security guarantees and Axelar's reliability guarantees have also been approved by very big names in the ecosystem. Uniswap recently did an assessment of all the different bridge protocols. Only 2 were actually approved for Uniswap's use cases. One of them was Axelar. So we are honestly pretty proud of this one, not gonna lie. So what are some of the use cases for this, right? Obviously, we have disconnected islands of blockchains, and now we have this one connected ecosystem. And the next part I want to talk about is what this actually means for us. The most obvious use case is very simple token bridging, right? You all know how bridges work. I'm assuming I don't have to explain this. You have a token on one chain, you have a version of that token on another chain, you have a bridge that can pass it back and forth. This is great. There is a bridge called Squid built entirely on top of Axelar. It has over $6 billion in cross-chain volume to date. And generally, Squid works with almost every single one of those 49 chains and can bridge a lot of assets today. But something that makes me, as an engineer, a lot more excited is that Axelar is not just a bridge, it's a general purpose messaging protocol, right? You don't have to pass tokens back and forth. You can pass arbitrary data packets, byte strings, payloads back and forth. So you can call any contract on any of the connected chains from any other chain connected to the network. Doesn't have to be tokens, can be contract calls. You can pull some data from another chain. You can push data to another chain. You can do basically anything you want with it, because again, drawing from the comparison to TCP/IP, it's just messages that you pass back and forth. And whatever you want to do with it is completely up to you, right? You build so many amazing projects. I've sat through this entire presentation and mind blown, honestly. And we trust you to know what to do with this. We built a protocol that can basically do anything you want. Go and do something with it. Go and build something great. And what gets me excited about this whole vision, this whole generalization of the protocol, is that you can also enable composability between chains. You can pick a chain with cheap storage and use it for storage. You can pick a chain with fast compute and cheap gas, use it for computation. You can pick a chain with a lot of popularity, with a big audience, and you can use it for your main application logic. So even if you, for some reason, want to support a chain that's very expensive, like Ethereum, or extremely slow, like Ethereum, you don't have to actually build your entire dApp on Ethereum. But you can still support it. You can still tap into this entire ecosystem that Ethereum already has. And for a different use case, imagine that Soroban shows up and mainnet is out on day one, and it doesn't have your favorite Oracle data feed that you want to use. It doesn't need to, because you can just call the Oracle contract on a different chain from Soroban, and you can pull that data back into Soroban, and you don't have to do anything about it, and the Oracle provider doesn't have to do anything about it, because if it exists on one chain, you can tap into it as long as that chain is connected to the network. So you don't just have to, you don't have to lock in anymore, and you can use any of the existing services, any of the existing Web3 ecosystem protocols, any of the available data that lives anywhere in this ecosystem, and you can read from it or you can write to it. You can tap into it in any way you want, and you can build something that's connected. So we are very happy to welcome Soroban into this network. We are going to support it on day one as soon as mainnet is out. And essentially, the whole point of Web3 is that it was supposed to be similar to the original web in the sense that World Wide Web, which has worldwide in the name, is interconnected. And so Web3 doesn't deliver on this promise yet. It's not really Web3, right? So the buzzword doesn't really hold true because it's not interconnected yet. It's a lot of isolated chains, a lot of isolated protocols, a lot of isolated ecosystems. And to make it an actual World Wide Web, to make the next iteration of the World Wide Web, first we need to get worldwide back into it. And that's what we're trying to build. That's the vision behind it. It's not about chains or DeFi or how much money we have in token transfers or volume. It's about actually building Web3. It's about building something that people can use without thinking about chains, without having to think, oh, this is on Ethereum, this is on Polygon. You just use something, and it could be on any chain you want. It could be on 5 different chains at once. It could be scattered across 3 different chains, and your users wouldn't care. They wouldn't see it, they wouldn't know it, they wouldn't have to care about it. Just like you can have part of your web services on AWS and another part on Google Cloud. In Web3, you will be able to have part of your dApp on Polygon and part of your app on Soroban. Just as easy as this. And obviously, some part of it, a pretty big part of it already works. And some part of it we still need to work on, but that's something that we are building towards. And we are very excited that Soroban is going to be part of this big interconnected true Web3 that we're building. So thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.